Hey guys, this is Shirley with Envision You Counseling and Consulting Services, your partner in purpose. And I hope this finds you in a place of peace and clarity and able to receive some good information. And if you feel like maybe that's not you in this moment, I want you, before you even go any further, to take a moment to inhale, exhale, and prepare to receive and get some good information for yourself. And honestly, I'm not in a rush to get through it, but if you need to pause and inhale and exhale a little bit before you move forward, that's fine. Okay, so that was the pause. Hopefully that's where you pause, but if not, it's all good. But nonetheless, if you have been following us, you know that we are doing a series on boundaries. If you have not seen the last video we did, please take some time to check it out. But if you believe that you're in a place where you could receive some direction and you could benefit from some clarity to understand what it looks like to identify and set boundaries for your life, stick with us. So, in our last video, we gave a little bit of a definition of what is a boundary. And just for a quick recap, for the sake of what we're doing now, a boundary, simply put, is something that is okay or not okay, or right or not right for me based on my own personal value system. And so you might think like, okay, Shirley, you defined a boundary. You talked a little bit about why boundaries are so important for me. Now let's get to how do I set that boundary? What does that look like? And it's funny. I thought to myself, like, yeah, let's just get into talking about what it looks like to set a boundary. But honestly, in my years of practice, I've learned that you can give somebody instruction and direction for what it looks like to create rules and guidelines for their life. However, if you just set those rules in place without somebody having a personal commitment or attachment or passion for those things, it doesn't work out so well. It makes it really hard for you to own your stuff. So instead of us just jumping in and talking about, here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ways to set a boundary, I'd rather talk a little bit more about the why, your personal why for setting a boundary or not setting a boundary, because honestly, it's your prerogative to do either one. In the process of doing that, it's my hope that we can explore this, and if you decide to continue on with us in the process of identifying and reestablishing or maybe setting for the first time some boundaries for yourself, that you can personally feel like you have ownership for the boundaries that you set. So stick with us, and we're going to talk more about your personal why, or maybe even our personal why, for what happens when we set boundaries and what happens when we don't set boundaries. So in our last video, I concluded by talking about in boundaries, if we fail to or neglect to set boundaries for ourselves, or if we allow others to set boundaries for us that go against our personal value system, that we're not doing them or ourselves a favor. And so I know a lot of you were thinking like, well, Shirley, what does that really mean? How does that even apply to me? Well, I'm glad that you're thinking about that. And I want to talk to you a little bit more in the same way I would talk to a client sitting in a session with me. As human beings, I believe that we are and we're created for relationship and connection. And I'm not talking about like a sexual connection. I am talking about a legitimate social connection, which can be seen in cultures around the world, that human beings thrive in an environment where they are in connection with other people. Now, on a side note, this has nothing to do with being an introvert or an extrovert, because even introverts, although there's a great misconception that introverts don't like people, the reality is a true introvert probably is going to be the most loyal, the most connected person that you're going to find. However, they just need some time to recharge out of the presence of other people. And so that's just a side note for all my introverts out there. I got your back. I know that you love the folks that you're around. We just got to let you go into your quiet place and then come back and re-engage us. But with all that said, we were created for relationship, and part of the recipe, and this is not the entire thing, but some of the ingredients of healthy relationships include things like truth, vulnerability, authenticity. I think I mentioned empathy, love, connection. All these different things help to give us healthy relationships. And so when we fail to allow one of those things to enter into a relationship, we're not making the most that we could out of that relationship. And so, for example, for a person that feels that they can only be in connection with other people by not sharing that this is okay for me or that's not okay for me, you may feel that because you're avoiding conflict, that you're having a great connection with another person. But the reality is this: conflict is a natural part of relationship. And in order for somebody to truly know who you are as an individual, you got to be okay bringing yourself to the table. So let me use myself as an example. And I know my best friend, if she's looking at this, she's going to know exactly what I'm talking about. But for me, I'm a foodie. I love food. I enjoy, it's just the camaraderie behind it is fun for me. But one of the foods that I love the most is peach cobbler. Now, I am one of those random people in the world that love to eat chocolate ice cream with my peach cobbler. Okay, I can hear your judgment now, and it's okay. My self-esteem is not bothered by it. I'm still gonna have my chocolate ice cream. However, my best friend will look at me and she'll express like, "That's the nastiest. Why would you ever? I don't get it." But you know what? But because I bring what I really like and who I truly am to the table, she buys me the chocolate ice cream on occasion. She thinks it's disgusting, but she makes the peach cobbler and she gives me the chocolate ice cream. So you may be saying to yourself, okay, Shirley, but you're talking peach cobbler. What in the heck does that have to do with me and the relationships in my life? Well, here's the deal. Where I'm using peach cobbler as an example, how about we fill that in with, I really don't like going to this type of movie. I really don't agree with this kind of conversation. I really would prefer to do this over that. You know, you fill in the blank. What's your peach cobbler that you're holding back from sharing with another person because they have an opinion or they express something that's different than yours? You fill it in for what it is for you, but at the end of the day, whatever it is for you, if you don't get into a place of being able to give yourself permission to freely share, number one, identify and then share with others, not in a nasty, forceful way, but in a just very straightforward, hey, that's not really my deal, or like, that conversation is not really hitting me in a comfortable place. I don't see things that way. What begins to happen is all the relationships that you have around you, where you have those missing elements of people thinking they're connecting with you in a way that is not true of you, is a false intimacy. Because to have intimacy, and not sexual intimacy, but to have true connection, social connection with another person, it involves them actually knowing who you are and who they're dealing with. If you operate outside of that, then the relationship is only really a figment of your imagination. And so what you risk is the opportunity to really see how deep and how strong that relationship is. And so we come right back to what we talked about in the very beginning, well, pseudo beginning of this talk. At the end of the day, I can tell you, here's the way to create the perfect boundary this way and perfect boundary that way. But if you don't discern or identify that you have a need or a desire to set boundaries in place, I would rather not waste your time. I want you to be sold on you and your right and your need to be able to show up and be present with yourself and with those around you. So I'm hoping that this is really getting you to think about how deep your relationships really are. Number one, with yourself and with others. And so stick with us. Like I said, we're going to go step by step and trying to help you set it up. And eventually we will talk more of the details of what it looks like to set a boundary. That's a different thing for different people. But at the end of the day, I'm more interested in making sure that you feel sold on why this is something that's vital for you. So until next time we get together, I love you guys. I pray for you guys all the time because in my mind, when one of us is living in the entirety of our purpose, it impacts in a positive way all the people around them. So I want as many people living in purpose as possible. So make it a great week. If it's been a rough day for you so far, it's never too late to start over and find something to be grateful for. Peace.